Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is a political scientist from France. Allan Kaval is a journalist who writes for the French website Les Clés du Moyen-Orient and is here in Armenia because he also wants to look into the Karabakh issue, but we're here to talk with him really about Kurdistan and the way that both governance and economics are developing there. Thank you, Allan, for joining us on CivilNet.
Thank you.
You've been to Kurdistan and you know about the way society, business, governance is developing there. And what interests us is the possibility for Armenians, Armenian businessmen, to interact there, Georgians to interact there. There are flights from Erbil to Tbilisi. So really, let's talk about that. What is the Georgian, Kurdistan, Northern Iraq relationship? What is the relationship with Armenians? What is the relationship with minorities in general?
Well, Kurdistan is known for 2004 thriving economy based on the revenues from oil and gas and the will of the government of this region to develop economically this very part of Iraq. And so they've been looking for partnerships in all the regions and to attract business people, workers, investors into the specific region. So there is opportunities, I think, for Georgians and Armenians and other people from the surrounding of Kurdistan to go and settle there and start businesses.
How does Baghdad look upon this?
Well, Baghdad is far from Erbil now. I would say that, Erbil is no closer to Istanbul, Ankara, or even Tbilisi than from Baghdad, and that's because they've been developing themselves with their own means, and they are now looking west and looking north, and less looking south.
What is their motivation for engaging minorities generally, not just Georgians and Armenians? Who else is there?
Well, Kurdistan, Iraq is no multicultural society. It's always been, but it's more than ever. People, Assyrian, Christians, Chaldeans, Armenian. There is a little Armenian minority there as well.
The older community.
The older community, of
local
course. Yeah,
Iraqi.
From Mosul and different places, and also Yazidi and different religious minorities from the old times and are living there quite peacefully, I would say. And I think that the roots of this issue is because, when the war started in 2003 and the civil war that followed, Christians as a community were targeted in southern Iraq and in central Iraq, in places like Mosul, Baghdad, Basra, because they were weaker, they didn't have militias, and they were targets for groups that either wanted to destroy Christianity in Iraq or to take their monies and demand ransoms and things like that. And at the same time, the Kurdish government succeeded in maintaining a high level of security in the territory it controls, which led these minorities some of the members of these minorities to flee to Kurdistan to settle there. And secure. In Erbil, there is no Christian town, which used to be a village, but it's now quite a big town in the suburbs of Erbil, which is called Ankara, and which looks like the old Christian neighborhoods of Baghdad or Mosul. People settled there and
so why?
Yeah. Why? Well, because Kurdistan is ruled by secularist parties and secular personalities who do not want a part of the population to be discriminated and to face the hardships of radicalizations or conventionalism. And so they were welcomed there. The government helped in some way Christian families from Iraq, from southern Iraq, to settle by giving them lands or opening universities or allowing students to continue their studies in Kurdish universities. And that's because, I think that there are humanitarian reasons, of course, but when you are unrecognized, internationally unrecognized political entity, you need to find some sources of legitimacy in the eyes of foreign powers, mainly Western powers, and the fact that Kurdistan welcomed these minorities in its territory put it on the map. I mean, in a way, it allowed Kurdish President Masoud Barzani to have regular meetings with the Pope, for example, or to be the man who you need to talk to when assessing the issue of the minorities in Iraq. So yeah, it's also a matter of foreign politics, for foreign policy, and and the will to have relationships with other powers.
Is the tendency to encourage the structures of these minorities to be each its individual community? Is it in some way an extension of the Ottoman system, or are they just seen as individuals who happen to be ethnically or religiously different, but not institutionally parts of communities? How is it?
Well, I think that history has a huge weight, and in places like Kurdistan or in the whole Middle East, it's quite difficult to build from scratch. I mean, citizens, the idea that we have in Europe of citizenship, or in the West of citizenship. So, of course, this historical weight exists, and people tend naturally to identify with that community, and though Kurdistan is I would say, like other places which are multicultural in the Middle East, a mosaic of different communities which they have relation with each other, of course, but it's quite difficult to build this common citizenship regardless of ethnic or religious backgrounds for the moment.
No. Obviously not regardless of ethnic or religious backgrounds, but in places like France or the United States, I can be an ethnic Armenian and engage directly with all of the government structures and any organization in society. In the Ottoman period, my place was in my community, in my millet.
Millet, yeah.
Yes. Now, how is it in Kurdistan? Am I an individual Iraqi of northern Iraq that happens to be Armenian?
Yeah.
That's how it is.
I would say that's how it is. Yeah.
So it's not strictly through the communities.
Well, it's not. It's changing societies. So you have these historical structures which are very strong, of course, but you have trends. Things are changing as well. For the moment, the minorities are involved. Religious minorities and mostly the Christians are involved in the political process through this community-based. These community-based structures. You have 5 seats in the Kurdish parliament which are reserved to the minorities, and it's you can apply to these seats because you are from minority. So because yeah. But of course, in the future, I'm sure that it could change because of course the European, the Western model of neutral citizenship will, one way or another, make its way to these regions. I cannot say when, but it is sure that these community structures are still very important.
Very briefly, within Iraqi Kurdistan, when there is discussion of these minorities, the leadership of these minority groups and groupings, if not groups, are of which generation? Are they 30, 40, 50, or are they 50, 60, 70 years old?
I would say 50, 60, 70 years old. Yeah.
So both the leadership of Iraqi Kurdistan as well as the leadership of communities are of that generation.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting when the generational change takes place.
Yeah, it will.
Thank you. This has been very interesting, especially given the fact that, one of the sort of similar examples in the Middle East is Lebanon, which doesn't always seem to work really well.
Of course.
So it'll be very interesting to see how all this develops. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been speaking with Allan Kaval, who is a political scientist from France, and talking specifically about northern Iraq, Iraqi Kurdistan, and the role of minorities there. And thank you for following us on CivilNet.